And perfect, I can see it. Good. So hi everyone. You won't probably see me from this corner, but I'm here, Andrea. So in session one, we heard the story of Bio4Human, how we understood the complex system and stakeholder needs to identify opportunities and generating knowledge. Now we move into the next part of our journey, how we selected and assessed the solutions, because understanding a problem is one thing, deciding what solution is actually worth implementing is another. And for us, that raised an important question. How do we decide what solution is truly worth implementing in humanitarian settings? The answer is rarely simple. It involves trade-offs, data gaps, practical constraints, and sometimes difficult decisions. So today's discussion right now, won't be just about presenting the results again. It will be about understanding how as a consortium we made the decision, and perhaps even more importantly, what we learned along the way. To start, we need to briefly recall what Damian was presenting as the approach behind our scoping, if you remember from the session one, and the investigation process. We began with really broad spectrum of possibilities, explored multiple directions, and then gradually moved toward a more focused set of options. Now I would like to turn to our investigation line leaders from the work package 4, and I would like to ask each of you a question. What were you looking for in your investigation line, and did you find yourself prioritizing different things? So I would like to maybe start with Itene, that is close to me. Carla, yeah.
This works. Okay. So at Itene, we had to explore different lines of investigation during Work Package 4. So we help in the exploring for the EU standard bio-based products, also for patents or for EU-funded projects, as was said before in the Work Package 4 presentation. But probably the most interesting part is the survey that we conducted to the bio-based companies that are members or associated members with the big, from the big bio-based industry consortium. And here I would like to thank you, Nello, for helping us with that. So through this survey, we aim to identify the bio-based solutions that could fit or that had potential interest for Bio4Humans. So we ask a lot of questions, but maybe for you to know, like the TRL of the solution, if it's low, medium, or high TRL, if they think from their perspective that the solution could fit in the Bio4Human project, whether it was affected by climatic conditions, or even if they have performed before an environmental impact assessment. So I have brought some numbers of the type of organizations that answers the questions, and 44% were small and medium enterprises, 23% were universities, 13% were research and technology organizations, and 8% were large enterprises. So quite a lot of different type of organizations. So the finds were kind of interesting because from this survey, we obtained that 90% of the respondents said that they had a bio-based product at a TRL 9, so at a commercial level, and then 22% at TRL 7 or 8, so it means a prototype. So from the total list of solutions of this line of investigation, we obtained almost 40 solutions, but then only 18 went to the next stage. So just examples of some of them. For instance, the biodegradable and compostable mulching spray, compostable packaging for dehydrated food, or even monofilament fishing nets, or the black soldier fly larvae technology for organic waste. And some of them even passed to the Work Package 5, where we did the life cycle assessment. So, and answering to the question on how we prioritize those solutions, well, we try to see those who had a clear applicability in Bio4Human, and focus also on the solutions that could be, that could be substituting the fossil-based solutions that were actually or currently being used by the humanitarian organizations, and of course, those that could have potential for reducing the solid waste management problem that they have on those two locations of their project.
Thank you very much. And we'll take questions after all the investigations lines. So Gavin, yeah. Kevin is online.
Yeah, thank you. So IBF, we were in charge of looking at products and technologies that were advocated by particularly bioeconomy organizations. So we had a list of a couple of hundred. So how do you differentiate and narrow the scope? We started to look at green credentials like eco-labeling, certification. And I suppose what we found actually that there was a huge gap in that a lot of that information wasn't extended and therefore couldn't actually be applicable to the Bio4Human project. When we did find some maybe suitable, what we thought were suitable solutions, maybe many of the stakeholders in the bioeconomy sphere, being the companies themselves, may not have been interested. So, I mean, maybe that's a drawback that they didn't know the profile or probably didn't understand the situation itself. But in terms of the, I suppose, products and technologies we were looking at were kind of anything to do with packaging is kind of an easy way in, or bioremediation. We even looked at, anaerobic digestion is quite big at an industrial scale in Ireland, but also it could be applicable to maybe family farms or local families in the affected regions themselves. So we looked at packaging, we looked at protective and insulation packaging for food packaging, even preparation gloves. I know from an Irish context that we had reached out to different organisations that may have products suitable. One was a company that was making disposable aprons for, I suppose, hospital settings that could be applicable. And also there's an Irish company called Kingspan. We were looking at maybe looking at hemp-based insulation. Now that could be a feedstock that could be grown in some settings. But we also looked at hygiene and yeah, those were kind of, I think we came around with 15 solutions or products in total. And yeah, I suppose a key drawback was that, only five engaged with us. So maybe there's a gap there in that, bioeconomy providers in Europe, possibly a lot of them are interested, but we maybe just need to do a better job of trying to address that language gap.
Thank you very much. Maria, from MindPlus, yes.
Hi. Well, from MindPlus, we were in charge of studying the funded projects from the CBE, the ones with biosolutions. We studied more than almost 200 projects, and we focused first on projects that were already finished to check their solutions. But it happens that before 2021, the projects were not focused on the applicability of the solutions. So all the projects that we reviewed between 2016 to 2021, the solutions lack from this applicability that was what we were trying to look for this project. So we changed our focus to the projects that were already on execution from 2021 to 2024. And there were some projects with good results, with technologies and products, bio-based products that were good for this project. But the problem was that they still don't have a result as they are in the execution phase. So we check the summaries, we check the feedstock of the origin of the waste, but unfortunately these projects were not able to bring a good input for the Bio4Human project. However, the results of these projects will be useful in the future once they are finished. So this is like a short summary of this investigation.
No, I think this is a very good lessons learned what we saw in the project, that exactly that low TRL level that the other projects are right now within the pipeline of Horizon Europe or CBG JU is not something that we would like to, we had to kind of discard for Bio4Human, but we would like to keep this portfolio in some existing pipeline. It shouldn't be really forgotten. These solutions can really fit the bio sector maybe within the next 4 or 5 years. So one of the core messages also from the project would be let's keep in mind also those that didn't cut the finish line here, but we would like to see how they progress. And Damian from the investigation line of Procivis.
Regarding the trade fairs.
Yes.
Yes, so it was, we have contacted like multiple trade fairs in Europe. For instance, our Polish Ecotech trade fairs. So we had last year, we had there consortium meeting also we are attending, actually meeting with some of the like technology and product providers, which was also really interested in interacting with actual companies. But also I think Ecomondo in Italy, so really significant maybe trade fairs. And yeah, maybe one conclusion was that that maybe there are many solutions, and the companies are really interested in interacting maybe with those the winners of the solutions were really like interested in interacting with us and maybe sharing their solutions. Also looking at the humanitarian sector as a business opportunity to expand their market and expand their reach in terms of being more successful profit-wise. Yes, so maybe this could be my conclusion here.
Thank you very much for the insight. So after this, I would just like to ask if there is any question from the audience for our investigation line leaders about this pathway that each of them took, or something online, or we can continue. Okay, good. So we have a short list, and the next question was really, how do we compare the solutions? How do we avoid choosing simply what sounds the most innovative or what initially appears most attractive? So Carla, question for you, and let me start. We started to set up the inventories for the solutions that we will compare in the life cycle assessments. So can you explain us why are inventories so critical and why they are so difficult in the humanitarian sector? And then also if University of Cantabria wants to join the second part of the answer.
So, well, from internet side, we were in charge of this inventory stage. So, as you know, the life cycle inventory is the second stage of the life cycle assessment. And here it's a crucial stage because we have to collect a lot of information. So we have to collect information from the inputs and outputs of all the products, processes, or technologies in the case of Bio4Human. And this includes collect information from the raw material extraction, from the processing, the manufacturing, transport, distribution, end of life, waste, emissions, product, co-products, so quite a lot of information. So the accuracy of this stage is crucial because then we have to assess this inventory in the life cycle impact assessment. So we have to try to get as much as information and reliable as possible. So here, sometimes what happens here, and especially in this sector, is that data is unavailable, it's confidential. So it requires that we look for sources, for secondary sources, such as inventories that we could find in articles or databases or even expert consultation. So it quite, it's a stage where a lot of time is consuming. So, and especially in this sector is particularly difficult because bio-based systems are highly variable. So it means the results depend on the feedstock type, the agricultural practices, the seasonal conditions. So a lot of variability in this bio-based sector. And also we have the problem that also there are these are products or technologies that are at low or medium TRL. So we cannot have information from a large scale. And finally, I would say something that sometimes happens is that a key challenge is that sometimes a lot of this information is confidential because companies consider it sensitive, that we totally understand, but this also has an implication that it's difficult for us to model this bio-based product. And yeah.
Okay. Hello, I'm Marta from University of Cantabria, and I have the same words as Carla, but the inventory is so critical. In our case, we were focused on the end-of-life technologies, including black swordtail flies and anaerobic digestions. And in our case, we have used articles to build up the inventories. And the critical point in our case is that those articles, the waste composition, are so critical to build up the inventories because it can change everything, the energy, the emissions also. So it's from from our side, it was the critical point in this.
Thank you very much.
Maybe Andrea, can I?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Until I get
To add, because this was a very important part of the work in the delivery of 5.1, and we actually also contact some companies to sign NDAs to collect these inventory specific inventories for the solutions, and yeah, that's where we also narrow a little bit more the solutions, because some didn't answer us. We got some some blocking points in this part, and we had to find generic data sets where the specific were not available. We tried to contact also other LCA colleagues that had already worked with these bio-based solutions to try to have this kind of data set. So it was a quite important part of the work here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina, for jumping in, and you can straight away answer the next question. So we are moving towards the life cycle assessment discussion. So the question, quite from a general point of view, and also for other LCA partners, feel free to jump in. What did life cycle assessment reveal that maybe you didn't expect? And did maybe anything challenge the assumption around the bio-based solutions?
Yeah, let's begin with the inventory. So it's a big challenge. I think everyone in the consortium is aware about this challenge, but I would not say that is like something new or unexpected. But what the LCA results reveal is that actually not all bio-based solutions are automatically better. It really depends on the situation, the context, the applicability. We have also seen that depending on where we produce it and the type of process to manufacture this bio-based solution, some processes are very energy consuming. So, for example, if you are in a country that has an energy mix that is fossil-based, and we implement this production, probably this local level of production is not good for the environment. We can say, local, it's better. It depends. We have to see the energy mix of the country. So we have analyzed it with this geographical assessment. We have proved that it's really the knowledge, what is behind everything, to understand which solution is better and where we should apply the solution. So this is something that we have identified. And due to this magnitude of the project, we have faced some ethics points also. So due to this food scarcity, we have also integrated another indicator that was not really closely related to the LCA, but it was a criticality assessment. Criticality assessment is normally used for metals, so for electric and electronic products. But within another European project, we were also a partner, Calimero developed a criticality assessment for bio-based products. And we tried to implement this methodology into the project. And it was very nice because then we could also identify, for example, for the PLA, that is one of the materials that is the source of most of many solutions in the project. We analyze different sources of PLA. So we have the virgin PLA, we have also the recycled PLA, we have also the PLA produced from waste, different type of waste. But then we identified that the yield is different. So we could analyze different things in the project that were not expected at the beginning, but I think that can help also the understanding of the humanitarian organizations to implement it later on. And also for this criticality, it was quite difficult to assess and to have information because it's quite new methodology, and we have to take a look on a lot of literature resources to implement this. So thank you for the colleagues that helped us.
Yes. Carla, you want to add something?
Yeah. I will jump in because Another thing that was interesting is that we found that the limitations of this material, of this PLA in the solutions. There is one example that we have this water bottle of 10 liters made of polyethylene, and we wanted to compare with the water bottle of PLA, but the supplier doesn't have at this moment, probably in a few years, but at this moment the maximum capacity is 2 liters. So we ended up comparing one polyethylene bottle with 5 bottles of PLA. So this is something that we didn't expect it at the beginning, but it's somehow a limitation that we have at this moment. And also another important thing is the biodegradability, because it's not only that the solution is bio-based, but we had to ensure that these solutions were compostable and biodegradable. So we also had to ask for this compostable certification. So yes, I would say that's where things that we didn't expect it at the beginning.
Yes, thank you very much.
Maybe
Anyone wants
Carla,
to add?
yeah,
in?
you can also add about this industrial composting part. About the PLA. Because actually what we have faced is that a lot of products made by PLA are industrial composted, and with Itene and their team that are quite expert on this side.
Well,
part.
it's not me, but yes.
Yeah,
we
team,
have an expert.
I said it
yes.
too.
Yes, but we decided to include compostability as one of the end of life because from the expert view of my colleagues, they say that it's not it requires infrastructure, but it's not such a big thing that we imagine. So maybe it could be feasible, and also some of the solutions were also home compostable. So it was quite good for the project.
I think yes. I think we had a couple of discussions also with other projects that we clustered with, where we looked at the industrial composting. Yes, exactly. My BIOS project. I think we discussed with your partners. So I think exactly more projects like this, because this helped us to connect the dots, And sometimes, yes, you have another half an hour meeting with another project, which really opens the new doors of these investigations. Do we have any question? If not, I have a question for Nello, but any question? Yes, Anna. Wait, I will bring you the microphone so everyone online can hear.
I know a bit about the project, so my question is if you could tell more about this aspect that we also heard from the community. So people were worried that bio-based solutions might affect food security in the countries that we are working in.
I can give it a try. So that's what we have as a main point in the ethics advisory board. And that's why we also try to integrate in our deliverables. So the first point, we try to analyze different sources of bio-based products in order to use waste to produce the bio-based material. This is the first part, to not compete with the food systems. And the other point is also that most part of the solutions that I have identified are produced in Europe. So are not local production. So that's also something that we have to maybe assess, because if we want to implement this local production, that's something that we need to see which raw material, which is the value chain of the production and the solution itself. So if the production is really local, which is the raw material, is it a waste stream, or is it really, I don't know, for a PLA, for example, sugarcane, maize, or so we need to assess solution by solution to see this point, and that's what we try to develop a little bit more in the reports, but it's quite a complex situation for Bio4Human. But yes, what we could see is that the solutions that we analyzed were produced in Europe or even US, if I'm not wrong. So it was not directly competing with the food there. Yes, please.
Yeah, so my question was like, was the life cycle assessment like covered comprehensively, like in terms of ecological footprints, then the life cycle costing, as well as the social life cycle assessment? Because like that is what covers the whole like the core of LCA comprehensively. And that is what, when I realized, like I wanted to add on to her question, like because not every time, like every solution, when the pilot testing particularly is carried out, the society or the place where it is being taken place would welcome that solution.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand very well the question, but we developed the life cycle assessment, environmental, social, and life cycle
Yeah.
costing in the project, and we try to associate it. So it's quite difficult from the social part, because social apply the social LCA for each solution is quite more difficult. It's more for the stakeholders part. But from life cycle costing point of view, we don't see a lot of difference from fossil to bio-based, and that's why the life cycle assessment environmental point of view is quite more conclusive, because we can then take part and give more inputs for what we have to do, what we could do, what we should avoid. And from the social part, I think maybe we can get for the next session also more inputs on this part.
Thank you. Any other question from the room? Okay, so I have a question for Nello. As a representative of the Bio-Based Industries Consortium, what do you think, like projects like ours can do better to better connect with that industry, maybe to get more of this data, more spark the interest? We think like in some way we had a lot of interest, but in some way sometimes it faded away after one discussion with the project investigation line leader. So maybe how to get more of the data from the industry in a successful way.
In a successful way. One of the thoughts that I've been having during the whole morning, and I put a note here somewhere in answering myself the question that I posed earlier, what next? One of the ideas that I have is to make an effort to bring a follow-up project within the joint undertaking environment. This project is Horizon, which is excellent. Cluster 6 is excellent, and many big members do participate in projects in Cluster 6. But if we have a follow-up project within the joint undertaking, that will easier involve the whole community of big industry members and also big non-industry members, because we discuss thoroughly topics that lead to a project within what we call the programming working group, in which every single industry member is represented. So they are aware. And so it starts to build this awareness and this willingness, this interest to see where they can input their own expertise, their own benefits, and what they can do to benefit the whole society. So there's nothing wrong with this project. I think this project is excellent. It really is. But for a follow-up, and my concern is really that it doesn't disappear, it doesn't stop. And I'd have two examples where we managed to do that. We started on the BBI with the effort to create an infrastructure for testing and upscaling facilities for especially SMEs. I wrote that topic, and the winning project was Pilots for You. When the Pilots for You finished, they said, who's going to help us? They called on Big. Big said, hey, we got other projects. I said, what is this? So we called the commission. Commission said, we have many other projects. Everybody's in the thought of more projects. And finally, one of the consortium members, bio-based pilot plant in Europe, in Ghent, in Brugge, took up the challenge and the guts to lead the project. And the project is an extreme success, and now it's a follow-up. The same thing is with education, and I'm looking now at my ProCivis partner, this biobank project, with the same intent. We want to establish an infrastructure for education interaction facilities. Now we have a follow-up. If we can manage to get a follow-up for this project within, again, I repeat, within the joint undertaking, we can more easy bring industry members that we have contact with into this whole thing about humanitarian sector. And I agree with the point that you made there, that gradually industry actors are starting to see this as an opportunity for them to prove their products, to prove their processes and extend their business. As long as more and more they start thinking in terms of impact driven and not only bottom line driven, But I talk about a lot, but
You totally hit the thing, because we went to the biotech meeting with the European Commission. Julio, our project officer, was also there, and then when they asked me what's for the next funding, I said more projects with the industry. So yay. Great. So thank you very much for these insights. And I would like to just move for our last question that I have for the team, and kind of final reflection. So I would like to ask each of the panelists one thing. What is the one thing that you would consider before implementing bio-based solutions in humanitarian settings, or and then this will link us also for the next session, where we will discuss the scaling up of the solution. So any volunteer to start?
Okay. I can start. So, well, one thing is very difficult, but I would say two things. One is the scaling up. So we have to, we need, these solutions need validation at scale. So we need incentives of money to do that. And the other thing is the end of life of the solutions. It's really important to consider. So especially when we're talking about this local context where the infrastructure, we are lacking infrastructure. So this is something that it's really important to take into account and to see if these solutions can fit in the local environment. I mean, if they can be home composted, it's totally fine, or compostable, but then if industrial compostable, then we need some kind of infrastructure, even if it's not that high, but something. So I think these two things have to be considered.
Thank you. Gavin?
Yeah, I'll probably come at it from like a bio-based sector actor perspective, and the techno-economic analysis that has to be done. It's immense. A lot of these products and services take years to make. So, for instance, there's a region in the world that needs your product and service. Well, then you have to think, okay, do I have the availability of feedstock? I have to consider, do I have to increase the price because it's being exported? I have to think about the emissions. As well, I think in the first session, it was, it's definitely true that the people in these scenarios have to see it, they have to trust it, they have to touch it, they have to see it. Is the bio-based actor themselves ready, or is it feasible for them to actually get their product or service in that region? There's huge capital expenditure, there's huge research in developing a product and service. So they need to understand the market data, they need to understand their audience, because you could be talking, in a region of thousands of people. So it's a complex conversation that needs to be had. And, Damian's right that there is a possible market there. A lot of the bio-based products in Europe and America are for European and American citizens. I accept that there is a market there, but there has to be a strong economic argument for the bio-based actors, I think, to get involved.
Thank you very much. Maria?
I totally agree on what you said. I will add that the bio-based solution can do the same capabilities as the fossil solutions they have right now. Because, for example, as Carla explained before, to compare the PLA bottle, they need to manage the bottle of PLA doesn't have the capabilities of the PE bottle. And when we interview the humanitarian associations that were working there, they explain us that they focus on, okay, we need to bring help to this location, and we need the service now. So if the fossil-based solution cannot be the same as the fossil-based, they will not do this change.
Thank you. Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everyone, no? But just to add a little bit, I think it's also very important this adaptability, geographical adaptability, because each solution maybe is good for one context and not for another. For example, if you are talking about waste treatment facilities that we have studied, some countries has already implemented, so the communities are used to it, so they will accept it very well. But some other contexts, maybe they don't have it. So we have more time to do this work of knowledge and understanding with the community. And it's not only environmental. We need also to understand before proposing something, of course. I completely agree that each context we have this geographical environmental assessment to be done. But after this, we also to understand the knowledge that the community has and the capacity that the humanitarian organizations have in this context. So yeah, I think it's a whole assessment that have to be done in each context, and it's not easy, but we have done given a lot of information for these two contexts in the reports, but unfortunately or fortunately, we have to do specific assessments for each case.
Thank you. And by the way, I told them they can also disagree with each other, but obviously. Yes, Damian.
Yes, maybe some final remarks. Well, in this project, beside this selection of bio-based solutions, we were also responsible for this gap analysis report and now finishing the SWOT analysis. So we had this really overview of different challenges, gaps, and so on in terms of implementing the bio-based solutions. And because I also agree with everything, but maybe I would also like to highlight this social aspect and raising awareness of the bio-based solutions, because maybe humanitarian colleagues could supplement more. But in those local communities, there are like certain maybe mental barriers in terms of interacting with certain types of wastes, like connected to animals and so on. So it's also about building and raising awareness that and tackling those, like I said, mental, social barriers, some taboos or everything really connected to the culture. This is one thing. And also maybe taking into account like increasing the knowledge of the local staff. Yes, because that showing that, because we have seen before that it's a significant gap. And yes, building the knowledge, raising the awareness of the and capacity of local people can also help to implement, regardless the locations. Yes, so to sum up, understanding the target groups from the business point of view is also crucial in this way, in order to successful implementation.
Thank you very much. Okay, so do we have any question online? No, but I encourage you. Do we have any additional question in the room? Okay, so if not, what I just want to highlight from this work packages panel also and investigation lines that there is a lot of information on Bio4Human website. Really have a look at the deliverables that we have open access from the work package 5 and 4, especially the LCA deliverable, and it's really a tremendous work of this team. And I also would like to thank our ethics advisors and ethics officer Dimitris in the room, and ethics advisors online, who also open for the team when doing the life cycle assessment and so on. really good questions about the food scarcity, about, for example, we were looking at the solutions linked with the seaweed, and okay, if now everyone starts to produce seaweed, so I'm not sure this is very environmentally friendly, and a lot of angles that really helped the project along the way. So this is like a side slide in. Thanks for the ethics, and thanks for the European Commission to put us ethics advisory committee who really brought this alongside.
And just to complement Andrea, because we talk about this awareness and knowledge, and you talk also about the deliverables, but also in the website we had given a lot of trainings. And they are there. And if you if you want to be a little bit more aware of what we have done, and we have given some inputs also for DRC and South Sudan communities. So all the webinars are there. So I think it was very, very nice. And we try to do this specific geographical assessment also in this webinar. So
it's a series of free webinars that Vilup did from both DRC and South Sudan, one in English, one in French. So we very much welcome you. It's also on YouTube channel and also on the project website. Yes. Actually, I was thinking in the beginning of session, but yes, great work. Okay, so I think we can wrap the session too. Thank you very much. We're gonna move later in the afternoon for session 3, where we are going to talk more about what's next. But now I would like to welcome the participants here to join the lunch session, and those of us online, we will meet in 45 minutes. So please take a break, take a breath, and thank you very much for all the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.
So they. I would like just the people in the room to take a seat and to invite